live in the century where globalization is the main economic and political fact. It seems clear in global economy that protectionism and customs barriers are not the solution to the problems of globalization, but growth through financial groups or financial engineering in the securities market is not the solution either. In the 21st century, a society's progress and prosperity will come from the creation, production and distribution of competitive products and services. Competitiveness is thinking strategically and vice versa. Competitiveness is about getting into the future, into this future where we shall remain the rest of our lives. Competitive products and services need quality, efficiency, technological innovation and sustainability. We have also learned that all we have achieved, or all a society could have achieved, liberty, progress, welfare, are not permanent achievements. We can lose them, especially progress and welfare. In order to maintain them, we have to be alert and behave as responsible citizens. The societies of Tenerife and the Canary Islands will have to face complex problems. Problems that require people capable of being flexible, of critical thought, with intellectual courage and strategic vision. That is to say, people who are a source of innovation and creativity for our society and economy. Progress is implicit in the development of science and technology. The 20th century, especially the second half, is known as the time of the triumph of science and technology, which become an essential part of culture. Concepts such as the atom, the gene, and the computer become frequent terms used in conversation. We do not know how we will refer to the 21st century, but today it would appear to be the century of acceleration. And acceleration is speed divided by time, which is to say, everything is happening much faster. And so the strategic objective of our society, which we have to pursue, is to become a dynamic and competitive knowledge economy, capable of an economic sustainable growth, as well as of increasing and improving employment. A society with stronger social cohesion, having the appropriate infrastructures that make our region attractive within the world economy. Our world is more and more open, intercommunicated and interdependent. The essential infrastructures to attain this objective on an island are ports, airports and the neutral access point, the NAP. The NAP, which is the point of access to the World Wide Web of Internet communications, the port and airport of digital voice and data operators. Remember that 500 years ago, thanks to becoming a passage or a stop and an exchange point between Europe, Africa and America, Tenerife and the rest of the Canary Islands, but mainly Tenerife, became a prosperous business center. Today, the NAP is the beginning of a new trip, this time towards the future, which is precisely Africa and Latin America. We will be sailing in a much more powerful and universal ship, the one of telecommunications and innovation, which travels at the speed of light. Connectivity implies competitiveness. In order to be competitive, we need connectivity, and to be connected, we also need to be competitive. How did this project that we are presenting today start? In 2005, the European Commission published a report made by Portuguese, Spanish and French specialists comparing insular ultra-peripheral regions with their corresponding continental territories. That's to say, Madeira and the Azores with mainland Portugal, the Canary Islands with mainland Spain, and the French ultra-peripheral territories with mainland France. The conclusion was tough. European Union insular ultra-peripheral regions are less and less competitive and are increasingly moving away from progress and prosperity compared to their mainland territories. There were two main causes. Firstly, the cost of telecommunications, and secondly, the progressive weakening of the ICT, Information and Communication Technologies sector. And in a globalization economy, nothing is possible without progress in the data transport market. An invisible industry, incomprehensible to the majority of citizens, despite being extremely important. An optic fiber cable, an engineering marvel able to transmit 50,000 conversations, 800 millions of simultaneous telephone conversations, 800,000 emails per second is something as simple as this. It's a true engineering marvel, and this is the actual cable, the one we are deploying between the Canary Islands and the mainland. The optic fiber is the 8 small filaments in the middle. The rest is all protection material. In 2006, we alone embarked on this project with the clear objective of transforming Tenerife and the Canary Islands into the information technological platform for Africa, America, and Europe, as well as obviously having quantity and quality wideband capacity at competitive prices, allowing access to all operators. We made an action plan, and firstly we contacted 2 institutions, the Directorate General for Regional Policy in Brussels, precisely where the report that opened our eyes had been made. We had a meeting where we made a specific proposal, and the person responsible did not quite believe we were able to do what we were proposing, and told us, "If you do what you are proposing, you will be 20 years ahead of the rest of European ultra-peripheral regions." I do not know if it is 20 years, 25 or 15, but the truth is that we made a huge step forward. 1 month later, we made the second trip to the city of Miami, whose county, Miami-Dade, is twinned with Tenerife. Miami is one of the world's most dynamic cities, as you know, and the headquarters of Terramark, NAP's company leader, is located there. This occurred between May and July 2006. On July the 25th, 2006, Bill Clinton visited us, and in a private conversation we had, I explained to him the project we had set in motion. From the beginning, he offered full support. He also told us he believed this was the peace platform, the peace aircraft carrier the world needed for aid to be effective to our neighboring countries, most of which are living in extreme poverty. We thus created the NAP, Neutral Access Point, at the beginning of August, with the following objectives: to transform the Canary Islands into a link between continents through the development of the NAP in Tenerife and the exponential increase of submarine connectivity between the Canary Islands, Africa, Europe, and Latin America, to promote the penetration of information through the increase of competence, building the development of Africa, providing a better access and achieving the liberalization of telecommunications, to be a base for Canarian and foreign ITC, Information and Communication Technologies companies, to operate in Africa and the rest of the world from the Canary Islands, from Tenerife. We also commissioned perhaps the most specialized Spanish firm on big economic and social impacts, which is the Centre Tomillo for Economic Studies, to write a book, which is this book here, written in English, French, and Spanish, entitled The Economic Impact of the NAP on the Canary Islands and West Africa. It analyzes in a very professional manner, in my opinion, the economic impact, the relation between connectivity and economic development, and between connectivity and GDP, Gross Domestic Product. And it's impressive. NAP availability implies for the majority of African countries a growth of more than 2 points in the GDP. You can imagine what this means in terms of job creation, etc. We set off on this challenge, now shared with the African countries. And the big question, which former President Bill Clinton also pointed out, is how are all these countries going to develop if they do not have connectivity? This is impossible nowadays. To develop healthcare, education, information, trade, even for more transparent political regimes, you need to be connected to the rest of the world and vice versa. We started having a shared challenge. We started having African countries as allies. The president of Liberia, the first woman president of an African country democratically elected, told me on a visit she made to Spain on International Women's Day, Liberia is a country in extreme poverty. It has been in civil war for 15 or 16 years. At the moment, we do not have the means to develop. We cannot even use Monrovia's port because there's a sunken ship in its entrance. But let me ask you something. When you draw the cable along the coast of Africa, do not forget Liberia. It's our last hope of escaping extreme poverty. And when I asked her how she knew we were tracing out the cable, she answered, "I was told in Boston." The president of Liberia studied at Harvard, at the famous University of Harvard, located in Boston, where she was told about the strategic projects we had, which her country needed for its development. In Senegal, we also had extremely interesting conversations with President Wade, who was also very interested in the installation of the cable in Senegal for the optic fiber supply by earth cable to neighboring countries. The same thing happened with Cape Verde and Ghana. The ACE, Africa Connectivity Europe, which is a consortium formed by 21 African countries, and the Cabildo of Tenerife, considers it the cable of African liberty. This was Nicolas Sarkozy's main message 8 months ago in the France-Africa summit. We are going to support this cable Africa needs, called the ACE cable, which goes through Tenerife. As you can imagine, this project is not at all simple. This is why nobody believed in us, especially in the possibility that we would develop it. We formed a small but strong team made to fight, full of inspiration and intellectual courage. It was the fight of a small David, much smaller than the biblical one, against a big Goliath, much bigger than the biblical one. We were facing multinationals, operators such as Telefonica, Ono, Orange, Telecom, etc., which are 1,000 times more capable than us. Besides cable multinational consortia, Main One, Orange, Wax, Ace, Infinity. They are not that numerous. They are 8 or 9 in the whole world who knew each other and did not like having some strangers rummaging around in their field, developing their own strategy.